One that has been running was born under a full moon. Like, does anyone else think that's weird? It makes you... Okay, I did go down the presidential rabbit hole of all the presidents who were born under a full moon, and I'm back with the tea. Just in time for the date. Interestingly enough, most of the presidents born under a full moon were born under a full moon in an earth sign. We got John Quincy Adams, first one, full moon in Capricorn. Then next we got Andrew Jackson, full moon in Virgo. Then we got James A. Garfield, full moon in Taurus. Then we got Warren G. Harding, full moon in Taurus. And this is where things switch up. We got Truman, full moon in Scorpio. And then the next one is Trump, full moon in Sag. Biden was born the day before a full moon. I will still count it, full moon in Taurus. And as I've stated before, I stated in this original video, Kamala was born under a full moon in Aries, and RFK was born under a full moon in Cancer. And going through each one, this is where things get really interesting. John Quincy Adams was president from March of 1825 until March of 1829, which I didn't realize the inauguration day used to be in March under Pisces season. Now it's in January under Capricorn or Aquarius season. Interesting. And that only changed apparently in the 50s. I'm learning so much about my own country's history that I probably should have known before. Anyways, John Quincy Adams was known most for his diplomatic ties, what helped the US acquire Florida from Spain. But one thing he did put into place that was kind of a rising tension before the Civil War. Civil War started in 1861, about 30 years after his presidency. But he imposed tariffs on foreign imported goods, which interestingly enough is something Trump wants to do from my understanding. This helped the northern states because the northern states back then were really big in manufacturing, but the southern states were not and relied heavily on imported goods. So it kind of increased tensions between the north and the south, one of the things contributing to the beginning of the Civil War. Even more interestingly enough, the next president in office, Andrew Jackson, was also born under a full moon in Virgo. John Quincy Adams was born under a full moon in Capricorn. Something that seems notable with Andrew Jackson is his one creation of the Democratic Party. It was called the Democratic Republican Party before, and he evolved it. He was also able to, during his presidency, pay off all national debt. That's crazy. Very full moon in Virgo, though. And he introduced quite a couple things that would bring more normal people closer to the government to have more of a say and influence, something I've heard that RFK is trying to do. Next up is James A. Garfield, who became president in March of 1881. He was born under a full moon in Taurus, but unfortunately he was unalived about 3 months after he came into office, so kind of considered a lost president. Next up is Warren G. Harding. He became president in March of 1921. Similar to Garfield, he was also born under a full moon in Taurus. There was a lot of drama during his presidency, and he actually died 3 years in from a heart attack. So, up is Truman, born under a full moon in Scorpio. He became president in April of 1945, when he assumed office because of the death of FDR. It's getting real morbid. From what I've read, he did a lot of international affairs stuff and passed a housing act that helped to increase home ownership. And that was the last president we had born under a full moon until Trump, who was born under a full moon in Sagittarius, in an eclipse no less. No other president born under a full moon was also born in a full moon eclipse, which I think is why Trump has become such the spectacle that he has. I also find it very interesting that the other presidents born under a full moon in Taurus, like Biden was, did not finish out their presidencies. There's something to that. Let's chat about it in the comments.